All right, I'm here with Guillaume, founder of Qlearly, who recently got acquired on Acquire. Guillaume, how you doing today?
Very good, and yourself. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. So for those that don't know you, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, of course. So I started in the music industry about 15 years ago at this point. I started when I moved to Miami when I was 13 years old. I started working with a lot of musicians. And so I was organizing events in Miami, and we had different artists like Avicii come. And so eventually it kind of turned into like a marketing agency. So at that point, I was working on helping those musicians pressing vinyls for them and different little projects. So it kind of became a little bit overwhelming. So I was trying to work on the solution for myself to organize all this mess and organize all those projects. So that's when I built Qlearly for myself. And then eventually that turned into pretty much working at AppSumo, but also having Qlearly listed on AppSumo. And then eventually I started working with Damon from Testimonial.to in January, and I went full-time with him then.
Nice. So I got a couple questions. I gotta pull it back out of that. My own personal. Who is the coolest artist that you met? I'm an Avicii fan. Rest in peace. And who is maybe your favorite artist that you met?
So Avicii was by far my favorite one. Also, I've known him since he was 16 years old. So I was the first one that brought him to Miami. At the time, I paid like $400 for the booking.
No way.
It was a very small show behind the American Airlines Arena. So I rented out this club called Bongos. And it was an ultra after party pretty much. And so we just brought out a bunch of different, smaller, younger DJs. And then I worked with Steve Duda, Grammatic, and a bunch of different artists like that.
Nice. I remember when I believe we're recording on the 18th. I believe Avicii passed away maybe today, because I got married on the 22nd, and we played like a couple of Avicii songs at my wedding.
It was around this time, because it was close to like the festival season and stuff like that. So it was kind of on lineups and had to be removed from lineups. It was a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, sad. Anyway, so tell me about Qlearly. What is Qlearly? What does it do? What problem does it solve?
Of course. So, it's pretty much a bookmark manager. So I had a lot of tabs open, and I was trying to organize all of it so that I can come back the next day and pretty much have a clean slate of tabs. So it's a bookmark manager that you can organize with different boards. So if you have multiple projects, or even you can organize it with work and your personal stuff. And so it's just a very simple Chrome extension that you can use and have it within your browser and save bookmarks or access. You could also do little notes and stuff like that.
It looks beautiful. It looks like maybe like Trello for bookmarks. Is that kind of?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So we had a lot of people are copying each other these days and kind of shipping the same exact thing. But what I did is our competitor was Toby at the time. So it's kind of like one tab also where you save bookmarks, but it all goes into one very long and extended column. So it makes it really hard to find something like 2 years down the road. So I was using it myself, but it just became very crowded. So I tried to I was using Trello at the time. So I was like, okay, can I do something around organizing this in a Trello aspect? And you worked out that way.
Nice. So I like how you solved a personal problem. I mean, I have like my bookmarks, they're all at the top of my Chrome, but I do it where they're little bookmarks, but it's only one letter. So I have literally 30 of them. So I could probably use this product. How did you get, the first customers for it?
Yeah. So it's, I think, a lot of people will probably say something like launching on Product Hunt, but that was slightly after. What I first did is I went on like places like Indie Hackers. And I'm not sure if they do that at the time today, but at the times they would give you the email of the user when you'll go over their profile. So I'll try to find relevant people that were kind and helping others. And so I pretty much cold emailed them, and so that's how we got the first, like 100 users that then helped us out with the launch. So it was not like just launching with nobody using the tool. So that was really helpful.
That's literally cold email works. That's literally how I launched MicroAcquire, now Acquire, just cold email people, got users.
Cold DMs too, and like all those, but like kind of targeted cold DMs, not, somebody that I knew could benefit from the tool that's willing to help others, may need that early on. Like that's what I was trying to find.
Sometimes you need that, in the beginning of a startup, just hustling, just reaching out to people, asking if they try it out, get feedback.
Well, funny enough, during the acquisition, actually, somebody messaged me telling me that he was one of those people that got the email many years ago. So I was like, that's amazing. Like some people are still around helping. And we actually do have users from like 3 years ago, so that was probably a good sign for the acquisition too, to see people still using the tool and not everybody churning within 2-3 months or something.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if the one of the buyers was a customer, that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So let's move into that. So you built Qlearly, it's doing well, it's profitable, it's solving a clear problem, and it's a beautiful product. What made you decide to sell it in the first place?
Yeah, so I think with software, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes, where I started to see that my input of effort was not kind of bringing the output that I was hoping for, because I don't find myself to be this great, amazing startup person or this and that. But every time I'll put in, a month of hard work, the income was still very slim. And so I was struggling to, keep putting in a lot more effort and kind of not really taking it somewhere, and not that I don't think it has value, but I don't think it was a project that I wanted to focus on for the next 5 years. For example, it was time to move on to another project, and maybe the other team has either bigger goals for it or even smaller goals on their own. But at least I wouldn't be, putting 5 hours of work on it, but then the output is kind of like a 1 hour-ish worth of output.
That's a smart way to think about it. Yeah, because a lot of people get stuck building stuff for years when they lose passion and they just keep going and go. And sometimes the best thing to do is just sell it and move on. Like if you're not waking up, stoked to work on what you're building.
Exactly. And that's how, it comes down to also the buyer that I found, which we'll get into a little bit, but I found a indie maker kind of buyer, so it's like somebody, and we'll talk about it, but I retain like a 10% ownership in the product too. So it's a little bit like I'm still there to help them with what I've seen, the things that I've seen work and the things I've seen not working and stuff like that. But I'm not there on the day-to-day hoping for the biggest outcome possible. I'm just there to help out.
Oh, so you retain 10% during the sale of the business?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you still have like a vested interest in the
exactly. Just really trying to help them make sure they get the most out of it, kind of avoid, because I've still been working on it for about 5 years. So it's this way of, you'll help them avoid and waste time on a bunch of things that probably won't move the numbers or things that I've already tested myself, those kind of things,
That can be a great way to just de-risk an acquisition for buyers, is saying, I'll stay around for any issues that might pop up, because every startup has some bug and it's like, how do you fix it? And for you, it's like, oh, just delete that line or 2-second fix. And then without you, it's like a 2-day, like.
Exactly. And I feel like they're already grateful for that, because I've already helped them with a couple like, tricky server switch this and changing the email for that. And I go all the way with, here's the exact template that I use. You can just copy paste it on your new account, this, and, instead of all starting everything from scratch, So I think they're grateful for that.
That's so important. Just goodwill with buyers when you're selling the business and finding ways to, because acquisitions are risky. And so I always say it's not like handing over the keys to a car. There's parts of the business that you may not discover in due diligence, and it may not be until 6 months something comes up, and just being able to contact the founder just for simple questions.
Exactly.
And the only way to achieve that is building, goodwill. So let's move over to, so you list on acquire. What happens in the first week?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a little funny thing that happened, which I'm going to mention now, because he's going to probably come up a few times, but I actually listed Qlearly about 2 years ago, maybe, like just around the Corona time when it all started. And what happened is I got a lot of messages, but I was not focusing on trying to sell it. So all the conversations kind of died down. So then I came back to you guys about, 2 months ago, 3 months ago or something. And that's when I really went out at it and really tried to sell it. This time the goal was to sell it somewhat as quickly as possible. So I kind of had to rebuild the connections, because all those conversations, people had already bought something, So I kindly reached out to your team and asked them to potentially be featured in the email again, because I noticed that that's what got me a lot of messages. So, about 2 weeks later or something like that, I was scheduled to be featured in the email. And overnight, I pretty much got, like 15 different messages, and that kind of kept on growing after that. And we just started a bunch of different conversations, and I was kind of aiming for people that, like the conversation conversation seemed a little chill somewhat, and not too trying to get into too specific, because it was still on the smaller side of acquisition. So I was kind of looking for somebody that understood that, and I was not taking it extremely seriously too. So that's how we started.
Nice. So how did you find the buyer? And also when you listed 3 years ago, that might have been me, like, who did the list. I don't know.
You did everything. You did. I was talking to you by email. You created the whole thing. You edited the description a little bit. You lowered the price, which was actually a good move, because I was like, I think like 5,000 above, 10,000 above or something like that. And so, you helped out with all those things to really have us be something that look clean on your marketplace too, like not just another listing that looks all messy. So that was really useful, I think.
Yeah, those are fun, and let's call them painful days.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
I was doing, I've said it a few times, support, listing cleanup, newsletters. But anyways, okay, so you got a bunch of buyers that just reached out. Some of them aren't giving you the right, vibe or personality that you want to work with, which is important because, again, you're going to be working with this person through due diligence, transition, all that fun stuff. How did you land on the buyer who eventually acquired Qlearly?
Yeah, so since we talked about that, I retained the percentage. I that wasn't the plan at first, right? So I was not necessarily looking for that at that time. So I was just looking, for somebody to have a good conversation with. And so I kind of opened all the LinkedIn profiles, kind of looked at what they were doing and all that stuff. And so I had pretty much 3 buyers in mind. So we're going back and forth, and I was, potentially trying to go through some of the upside and like the major downside stuff, like trying to just get all of those out of the way. And at that point, we pretty much retained still those 3 people were still very interested. So I kept having more conversation with them. And then I kind of widened it down to 2 people. And then I negotiated with those 2, and one offered, well, right before that, I really was feeling it with one of the person. We got on a few calls and stuff like that, and it worked out great. So then that's when I tried to negotiate a little bit, and that person offered 10%. And also I had a good feeling from them, as he was like an indie maker and stuff like that. So I had a very good feeling about it.
Nice. I mean, that can make all the difference too. Just like, kind of give and get. And that 10%, is a sizable portion of the business. It's something you've spent years building. So I assume you have some sort of, everything I've built, I'm, attached to in some way. So just, I mean, that's a great way to incentivize both parties, where you'll take the offer, and then for the buyer, it de-risks it, where if any issues pop up, you're here to help. So awesome.
It worked out great that way. And I think, finding the buyer was actually a very interesting process, because you guys make it very easy with the funds verified, with the LinkedIn profiles, all that. So we can, do a little check at least, and make sure that when you go with those 3 people, that you're going with the right 3 people at least. And then you can kind of go from there.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
of course.
We've added quite a bit since 3 years ago. We
didn't
have any of that 3 years ago. Okay, so you and the buyer agree on terms. How did due diligence go? Quick, easy, hard?
Yeah. So what we did is we did it in a couple of steps. We first started, I did a Zoom call with like a screen sharing, where I was pretty much sharing the database, like how the backend works, the Google Analytics stuff, and kind of going over some numbers just to make sure all of it was, because you could technically, like in screenshots these days, you can change any information that you want, So I was trying to, have them see that it's all real and live numbers and stuff like that. And so we just went over that, and then on their side, because are you referring to the escrow process or not just yet?
Both. Well, due diligence and transfer and escrow. We can just talk through that whole process.
Yeah. All right. So then the escrow process was not as fun. So what happened is I registered on microacquire.com with my Qlearly email, but then I was trying to use my personal email with Escrow. And so those 2 pretty much created an issue where the 2 were not syncing together. And so I had to contact Escrow, and then that took a little bit of time. Then he had to verify the information. So unfortunately, the escrow process actually slowed down things by quite a bit. But, aside from that, it was very simple, like actually going through the required steps, like verifying your information with them, started and sending out I think it was just a password sharing stuff. So just sharing that, all of that was a fairly easy process. Just the verifying email. Definitely recommend making sure you use the same email as your acquiring account.
Nice. That's good feedback. And we actually are working on a Escrow upgrade. We're calling it like Escrow V2.
I saw this morning upgraded Escrow, right?
Yeah, because the interface on Escrow can be like situations like that come up, and so we're giving it a huge upgrade. So by the time this podcast comes out, it might be out. I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, that's really nice. I think I don't mean to cut you off, but I think for a smaller acquisition like me, buyers will really buyers and sellers will appreciate it. I think Escrow will be extremely important for higher acquisition, obviously, but at our side, like the size that we were going with, and I was already trusting the buyer is even in California, somewhere nearby. We could have almost done it in person if we wanted to. And I feel like just going through a acquire.com for myself and him would have been just as simple and worked out just as well.
Nice. That's great to hear. Well, I'm glad the acquisition went well and you found a great buyer. It sounds like you're still in contact.
Yeah, thanks to you. You guys really made it easy. The amount of buyers actually, like at the one point it was like 60 or something. It's very busy. It's very good what you guys are doing.
Well, if you build a good company and you put it on there, we've seen some wild stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure like you had suggested the right price too. Like kind of combining all those together makes it that obviously you show up in people's filters and stuff like that, I'm guessing.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. Lots of people are kind of just crawling acquire all day long, especially since your business is, great product, profitable. That's something a lot of buyers are interested in. So congrats on building it. Congrats on
thank you very much.
The acquisition. I guess, my last question would just be, and I ask this on, every podcast I do, but if you just had to give, 2 or 3 like main tips to founders looking to sell or get acquired, what would they be as they go into the acquisition process or during the acquisition process? What were your biggest learnings?
Yeah, of course. So I did take a couple notes actually to try to make sure that we'll go over some good ones. So let me just go through them. Okay. So I think the screen sharing was a very nice thing to do, and that worked out very well. It brought this sort of trust with the buyer, and I think that was a good thing, and that they appreciated. I think the escrow process, making sure that you have the same email, I think is a very good one, and it's very simple. You can just avoid that issue. And then sharing growth ideas, the sort of things that we had in mind for the things that we didn't implement, the things that we wanted to build, the things that I got pretty much estimates on, like building an iPhone app, this sort of stuff, and kind of you can put in a little bit of information about those sort of stuff. And if you, I think that's it. Has to be good, cool. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you could negotiate, if you started like me and kind of listed slightly below to get some offers, the time to negotiate. If you have your 3 good buyers that seem very interested, nothing stop you from at least sending that one message about trying to get a tiny bit more before closing.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that, especially the growth opportunities too, because most people buy startups to grow them. And
yeah, exactly.
No one has better growth ideas than, the person who built the product. You've been living in it, you've been building it, you've been talking to customers, just sharing that, even the bad stuff, even the stuff that didn't work or stuff you haven't tried.
We discussed a bunch of features that I tried to ship and kind of remove from the tool, all those, so that they kind of scrape it aside in terms of, we shouldn't grow that way, and focus on those things. And I think that will be useful because technically they could they bought it already, but they could technically focus on it for the next 3 to 6 months and already resell it for more money. I know that's not exactly their goal, right? But it was all set up in a way that's easy for them to take over it, grow it, and make it more valuable. So I think if we have it set up that way, it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it's like you're handing them a product roadmap that's already been
exactly.
Tested with customers, the feedback and all that good stuff. Well, that's again, congrats on the acquisition. I guess final question.
Thank you, Andrew.
What are you working on now? Full-time at Testimonial or anything on the side, or?
Yeah, no, so I'm trying to do the opposite this time. I think I've listened to a lot of things about actually kind of freeing up your time, being as valuable as working on things, So I'm trying to free up my time, but also just go full time on testimonial and kind of mentally full time, like also like when I'm walking my dog, I'm still thinking about it, So kind of just trying to focus on one thing and not be too diversified for the time being. And eventually I'll work on something else, but for now, just trying to focus on this one thing and grow it as much as we can.
Nice. Well, we were talking before we started recording. I'm a big fan of Testimonial, and we're customers. So I'll put a link down in the show notes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's really nice to have you guys as users. I see all your very nice wall of love. So many nice people saying good things about Acquire.com, and I'm really not surprised. So
yeah,
we're glad to have you as a user.
Well, thank you for building it, and tell Damon I said hi. But
yeah, of course, he was excited to get the microphone for this interview, so hopefully people can hear me well.
Yeah, do you care if I share the one story about Damon?
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so Damon, the founder of Testimonial, he was on Twitter, and maybe when Damon sees this, he'll comment. But I was just scrolling through Twitter, and he had this like quit in public goal, and he was like, I need 1,000 more in monthly recurring revenue, and I just bought like 5 plans or something. This was like 2 years ago. I can't remember. And then I was like, all right, you got to quit your job, go all in. And
well, it worked out very well for him.
It seems like it. I'm really happy for him and you. And so
thank you very much, Andrew. He's been doing that for a long time too. He actually bought Qlearly on AppSumo himself to support me back then. So he himself has been supporting people for a long time, and he's been really, really nice to work with and very supportive in the industry in general. So it's been really great, and we're very excited for all the things we're shipping. There's so much that we're doing that's a little bit outside of the indie maker stuff, like the wall of love from Twitter and G2 and product. And now we're kind of going way beyond that and focusing on e-commerce and bigger agency stuff. So there's so much to do, and we're very excited about it.
It's a great product.
Thank you very much.
Pain point. So if people want to learn more about your story or maybe follow you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, of course. So it's Guillaume Bardet. So it will be my full name on Twitter. And then based on that, I guess that'll be the best place. We can chat there. You can send me a message if you're listed on Acquire and you have a little question or something. And probably the team will be better to reach out to. But if you have a simple question about a Chrome extension, I can help out.
Sounds good. I'll put all that in the show notes. Well, congrats again on that acquisition. Great. And
thank you very much, Andrew. I'm really grateful for the platform you've built, because I'm kind of expecting maybe to use it again in the future or recommend it to friends they'll be getting their first acquisition. So it's a really nice thing to have in the market for everybody like us. And I know you guys are doing big acquisitions, but even for smaller people, just trying to build something and sell it and benefit from that. So it's really nice.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course, Andrew.
Thanks for coming.
And thank you for having me on. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It was great talking to you.
My pleasure. All right, cheers, my friend.
Cheers.